Good morning, Malaysia. This is Matthias Chang once again from Future Fast Forward. I had no intention to give a video address until after the budget by Najib this Friday. However, what irks me was a speech which our Prime Minister Najib made on Tuesday, 24th October, and is reported by Bernama. In that speech, never would I have thought that our Prime Minister, come Finance Minister, would be so rash and audacious to expose his own ignorance and stupidity. Yes, stupidity in making commenting on issues relating to the economy, global economy and currency, way back from 1997 till now. That's why I have no qualms to speak today, so that those lies, misrepresentation, stupidity and confusion that may arise as a result of that speech and would confuse the people, I have decided to expose those ignorance, those misrepresentation, lies and stupidity, so that all of you, after this speech, will have a better understanding, and when the budget is presented on Friday, you'll be not in a position to be hoodwinked or misled, but rather realize the propaganda of the budget. Now, what he said was, the crucial part he said in speech, entitled, "My Economic Vision for Malaysia." Not that there's any vision, but he's entitled to say what he wants, and the speech is entitled, "My Economic Vision for Malaysia." This is what he said regarding to the strength or weakness of the currency, ringgit. He added that while it was true the ringgit had weakened amid the global economic turmoil and uncertainties since 2014, there were other positive aspects to this, with the country's exports, tourism booming. That's what he said next. Najib said he refused to conform to the old ways that led to serious legacy problems, and firmly believed that Malaysia needs a new vision. Meaning, the old vision propounded and the whole country worked in unison to achieve Vision 2020 is to be rejected, because that Vision 2020 was a blueprint for the entire country, for which he, even when he assumed premiership, said he would try to implement and achieve the targets by 2020, but of course he failed. Okay? This inadequate, ignorant, inefficient Minister of Finance could not deliver, and he came up with now TN50 and tried to whitewash his failures by saying that vision, which he as a member of the cabinet endorsed it, and when he became a Prime Minister, said he will implement and achieve his goals, and now wants to do a somersault. They say, trying to be too clever to justify his wrong policies today, saying that pegging the ringgit and reimposing capital controls would have been the easiest thing for me to do. I read again. Pegging the ringgit and reimposing capital controls would have been the easiest thing for me to do. As if he needs to do that now, because the currency is in a horrible situation. He wanted to dissociate with a policy that was applied in 1997. Having suffered from the lack of investments after we had imposed capital controls and pegged our ringgit from 1998 to 2005, we decided not to do it again. So he's saying, he's blaming that the legacy he received after 2005 was horrible. And whatever legacy he received was because of capital controls imposed by Tun Mahathir, for which he was a member of the cabinet, and the pegging of our ringgit to US dollar at 380. He was part of the cabinet, But let me assure you that during the time of the 1988 financial crisis, he was totally blur, ignoramus. He knew nothing. He was wet behind the ears. He was, in one word, out of his league, stupid. And I challenge him or any of his advisors to any debate that he knew nothing how to handle the crisis. And what he says now is a lot of crap, rubbish, lies, misrepresentation. Okay? Because the crisis was not started by Malaysia. The 98 Asian crisis. It started in Thailand and spread all over Southeast Asia to Japan, Korea, China, and then became a global crisis. Now, let me go step by step, shows how stupid he is. He thought, by making reference to the capital controls and the pegging of the ringgit to US dollar at 380, 90% of the people will have forgotten what were the issues that give rise to this policy, and how it took Mahathir to expose the errors of the IMF and the World Bank. And subsequently, after we recovered, Harvard University's World Bank, IMF said, we were right. So scumbag, AMLO politicians in the government or within the Supreme Council, you better wake up. And you better tell your boss to zip up and shut up. And don't tell lies anymore. Okay? Now let me now ask all of you, get your handphone ready. Get your handphone ready. Because I'm going to ask you to photograph, right, extracts of newspaper cuttings detailing the headlines, what happened to the key economies in Asia, namely Japan and Korea, and to Malaysia. Okay? Starting from July 8, 1998. Photos like this, please, and I will read to you later. Then, from December 3rd, 1998 to January 1999. Photograph it, please. All right? And then lastly, a Wall Street report of 1999. All right. Let me start first. In September 29, 1999, Wall Street, quoting the then second finance minister, Mustafa Mohamad, who is still now in his cabinet. So when this ignorant prime minister attacked the policy of the then administration, for which Mustafa Mohamad was a finance minister, number 2, and still now in the cabinet, he has forgotten, all right, how stupid he sounds and how derogatory, without basis, he has commented on one of his colleagues in the cabinet. And this was quoted, right? Malaysia's second finance minister, Mustafa Mohamad, said the government will likely revise up an economic growth projection of 1% for 1999 when it issues the budget for 2000 next month. An upgrade is expected as the economy posted growth of 4.1% year on year in the second quarter and expanded 1.4% in 1999 first half against the year earlier period, meaning 1998. In a wide-ranging speech on the economy and Malaysia's financial and banking systems, the minister reaffirmed the government's commitment to keeping the ringgit pegged to the US dollar at its current level of RM 3.80. Mustafa Mohamad would have given this statement to the whole world about our economy without the agreement, the understanding of the entire cabinet. We were hit severely in 1997 and 1998. Yet by 1999, our economy was growing, recovered, and showed positivity. 4.1% year on year. After a devastating crisis, which turned into a global crisis. And what have our government achieved thus far under this ignoramus Prime Minister? Nothing of substance. Okay. Having said that, when Mustafa Mohamad assured the world that we will maintain the peg at 380, he was a member of the cabinet. Did he oppose the pegging as incorrect? I challenge him. Najib, I dare you to show me any cabinet meeting minutes you oppose the pegging. Not only in 1999, but 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. Did you object? If not, shut up and zip up. You have no basis to question the validity, the correctness of those policies. Because you were not a finance minister. You knew nothing. In any event, okay, very briefly, let me read to you the headlines, right? Way back in July, Associated Press, July 8, 1998, Asian crisis to reduce world trade. That was the seriousness of the crisis. Would reduce world trade. Washington Post, October 5th, 1998. Economic crisis, how to contain the contagion. It was great throughout the whole world. November 15, 1998. Japan on the edge. Economic crisis in Asia's powerhouse. November 26, 1998. South Korea love rice. A few grains feed many. Los Angeles Times. December 3rd, 1998. Japan economy continues shrinking. Associated Press. February 23rd, 1999. Economic crisis is easing in Asia, but unemployment still high. April 28, 1999. IMF has no answer to currency crisis. January 30, 1999. Envoy, South Korea's on the mend. And then, in September 1999, Mustafa Mohamad told the whole world, we are recovering, we are doing well. See, these are some of the headlines. You think I'm so stupid, Najib, that when you make such statements, I don't have the ammunition to whack you, to expose you? Like I said before in all my speeches, I don't utter any word without first exercising my mind or doing research. I bet you, when you make that stupid speech, your economic vision of Malaysia, you have not done this, isn't it? None of your advisors or your scumbag lawyer but not smart cronies, they knew nothing. And you spoke with bravado, grandstanding as if you know anything about economics. You know nothing. I dare you debate with me. I dare you, okay? Because I'm going to whack you if you dare. If you don't dare debate with me, send me your best brains, okay? In Treasury or anywhere else, your advisors, debate with me. And I'll expose the hollowness, the shallowness, and the bullshit. Now, very interestingly, Joseph Stiglitz, to all Malaysians who don't know him, he was a Nobel laureate for economics and the chief economist for World Bank at the time of the crisis. Okay? And in a speech at World Economic Crisis, he made a speech in 2000. In 2000. Okay? This is what he says. One of the passages which I've highlighted. In doing a survey of whole of Asia, what happened? He says this. Every recession eventually ends. All the IMF did was make East Asia recessions deeper, longer and harder. Indeed, Thailand, which followed IMF's prescription the most closely, has performed worse than Malaysia and South Korea, which followed more independent course. You heard that, Najib? You heard the UMNO's comebacks? Cronies, not smart? Huh? A Nobel laureate economists say this, that we did better than others because we had an independent policy and a course to salvage our economy. And during a time of the crisis, Tun Mahathir did not stop all the key projects. Putrajaya was continued to be built. Cyberjaya continued, thereby saving the entire construction industry, as well as developers. So what you have to say? Ignoramus, half-baked economists. Now, it says here, this is April 17, 2000. He gave a speech. Next week's meeting of the IMF in Washington, D.C., many of the demonstrators who trashed the World Trade Organization in Seattle last fall will be there. They'll say the IMF is arrogant. They'll say the IMF doesn't really listen to the developing countries. It is supposed to help. They'll say IMF is secretive and insulated from democratic accountability. They will say IMF's economic remedies often make things worse, turning slowdowns into recession and recessions into depression. And they have a point. I was the chief economist of the World Bank from 1996 till last November, during the gravest global economic crisis in a half century. I saw how the IMF, in tandem with the US Treasury Department, responded, and I was appalled. And I was appalled, he said that. Then he went to say specifically what happened. And he made a comparison between the Asian crisis and the Latin American crisis in 1980. That's what he says. The last set of financial crises had occurred in Latin America in the 1980s, which bloated public deficits and loose monetary policy led to runaway inflation. There, the IMF had correctly imposed fiscal austerity, balanced budgets, and tighter monetary policies. But in 1997, the IMF imposed the same demands on Thailand, other East Asian nations, and even as evidence of the policy failure mounted, the IMF barely blinked, delivering the same medicine to each ailing nation that showed up on its doorstep. I thought this was a mistake. For one thing, unlike the Latin American nations, the East Asian countries were already running budget surpluses. In Thailand, the government was running such large surpluses that it was actually starving the economy of much needed investments in education and infrastructure. It was both essential to economic growth. And the East Asian nations already had tight monetary policies as well. Inflation was low and falling as compared to what happened in Latin America in the 1980s. So it was two different situations. And Stiglitz says, IMF was wrong. That's why Mahathir, when adopted an independent course, did not follow IMF policies. And this Nobel laureate said that Mahathir was right. The independent was right. We suffered less. We had no inflation, low inflation. In the midst of crisis, understand? Scumbags, ignoramus, which economists have you consulted? Now we have, right, high inflation. People are suffering from your GST and your failed policies. And you have the cheek to compare yourself with that of Tun Mahathir and past policies for which you are a member of that cabinet. Don't you dare take credit for our success then, because you didn't take part, you were not active or proactive in the forms of any of the policy. And let me tell all Malaysians, there was a great man in the name of Tan Sri Norin Sopi, the head of ISIS, the think tank, Now, in a scale of 1 to 10, I think his intellect will easily up to 9, not 10. If I were to ask to compare the intellect of Norin Sopi to that of the Prime Minister, I would say, I will give you allowance, okay? I'll be very generous. At most, the Prime Minister's intellect will be 4.5 compared to Norin Sopi. And yet, although initially Norin Sopi was perplexed and confused as to the adequacy, validity, and efficacy of Tun's policy, later, in a very important meeting with the Prime Minister, he realized he was wrong. His idea was misconceived. He failed to understand all the factors. And after that meeting, a no-holds-barred meeting with Tun Mahathir as then Prime Minister, he rallied behind the Prime Minister full blast and supported the hilt the policy. And he's the leader of a think tank. Where were you, Najib? Where were you? You were hiding in some closet, I'm telling you. You were so dumb and ignorant. You didn't even contribute 1 iota to the policy. All you did was maybe sat on the cabinet meetings. But then, under the policy of cabinet responsibility, all are deemed to be in support. There was no record of you opposing, no record whatsoever. And I challenge you to show to the country you disagree with Tun Mahathir. You disagreed. Now you say you disagree. Now you say you disagree. In hindsight, even your hindsight is wrong. Understand? Do you understand what's Vision 2020? For which you declared you support as member of the cabinet, and then after you became Prime Minister, you will implement it. Vision 2020 is perfect vision. Go to any optician, they will tell you Vision 2020 means perfect vision. Whereas TN50 means what? Talk nothing, 50. Talk nothing, TN, Okay? Tak nak. Okay? Tak nak. 50. So please, have humility. Have humility. Know where is your level of intellect and your experience. And hopefully, if you zip up and shut up together with your advisors, maybe we will regain some respect from the international community and investors to Malaysia. So this was a speech made by Joseph Stiglitz, head of World Bank, chief economist. In fact, he made a further reference that in January 1998, he said things had gotten so bad that the World Bank's Vice President for East Asia, Jean-Michel Severino, invoked the dreaded R-word recession and a D-word depression, describing the economic calamity in Asia against all the nonsense spilled by Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, what have you, and of course Soros. We had a major calamity, depression, and yet we came out with a head held high. We were respected all over the world for independence, for resilience. Then, in 2007, July 2007, in an article to Project Syndicate, Joseph Stiglitz wrote again an analysis 10 years later. Now this was just before the global crisis of 2008, the global tsunami. He said this, on looking back what happened. In 1997, the IMF and the US Treasury blamed the crisis on the lack of transparency in financial markets. When different countries pointed their fingers at secret bank accounts and hedge funds, IMF and US enthusiasm for greater transparency diminished. Since then, hedge funds have grown in importance and secret bank accounts have flourished. Even to today, there's how you got money laundering. You say by one MDB, by Joe Low. And your stepson Rizal Aziz. This was 2007, he already warned hedge funds and all the rubbish was going on. Okay? But there are some big difference between then and now. Comparing Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, okay, and another 7. Most developing countries have accumulated massive foreign currency reserve. They learned the hard way what happens to countries otherwise. As the IMF and US Treasury marched in, took away economic sovereignty and demanded policies intended to enhance repayment to Western creditors, which plunged the economies into deep recessions and depressions. Reserves are costly, for the money could have been spent on development projects that would enhance growth. Nevertheless, benefits in reducing the likelihood of another crisis and another loss of economic independence far outweigh the cost. It's not what we did, isn't it? It's what we did, right? Under Abdul Mahathir. We recovered our reserves. We became stronger and stronger to maintain our sovereignty and independence. But instead, you created one MDB, borrowed money from the Jews, Goldman Sachs, and then laundered the money through one MDB and the main culprit, Joe Low. And now there's big cover up. Your deputy says, investigation closed. Investigation closed. That doesn't mean the crime has not been committed. There'll be other jurisdiction investigating Joe Low and Rizal Aziz. More of that later, my fellow Malaysians. I will expose that more later. After the budget. But here, it's enough that Stiglitz, in 2007, 10 years after the crisis, reviewed again and maintained his stand. And then the second lesson, right? There's a need for credible international financial institutions to design the rules of the road in ways that enhance global stability and promote economic growth in different countries. With the IMF so dominated by US, it is the only country with a veto, and Europe, the fund was long seen as representing the interests of international creditors. Its failures in the 1997 crisis further undermined its credibility, and its failure to do anything about the massive global financial imbalances that represent the main threat to global financial stability today have underscored its limitation. Reforms are still needed. We may not be facing a repeat of the global financial crisis of 1997, but make no mistake, imperfections in the global financial system can still be costly, both in terms of global prosperity and stability. Meaning, in 2007, Stiglitz was warning to the whole world, don't repeat the mistakes of the past. We, the different countries, have learned those mistakes and change with independent policies. And he warned, because of the failure to reform, to restructure the global institutions, there'll be another crisis. And the crisis came when? September 2008, when Lehman Brothers collapsed and ushered in the global financial crisis. Do you know what happened? Did you foresee that? Najib? Did you foresee that? You were blurred, you were blind, you didn't know what hit you. Okay? Let me tell everyone in Malaysia. I published a book called The Shadow Moneylenders and the Global Financial Tsunami. Okay? Take a photograph of this book with your handphone. This book, although published, right, in March of 2008, it was a compilation of my articles and analysis written as early as June, July 2007, leading all the way. My analysis were published in my website, sent to the government and other people all the way to the collapse. To prove to you, okay, okay, what I say is correct. Part 1 of my book, okay, just show to you. Photograph it. Financial rapists in sheep's clothing. 12 July 2007. Written that. And then in another article, part 2, financial rapists in sheep clothing, 14 July 2007. And then the global banking collapse, 14 August 2007. All right. So Najib and a bunch of your cronies, loyal but not smart cronies, I dare you, show me in 2007, right, when you were part of Patla's regime, the sleeping regime, were you aware of this? You weren't aware, I'm telling you. I wrote these articles, I sent out emails, SMS messages to everyone, foretelling the global crisis. And I was spot on. Way back, a global banking crisis would hit in August of 2007. Where were you? And thereafter, I held and I organized on behalf to Mahathir closed door meetings where even Bank Negara officials came, ISIS came, key CEOs of public listed companies, GLCs came in a meeting in a public hotel, a forum where even ministers came. And I warned, I prepared that, and I organized that closed door meeting. And I exposed everything. And people say that I was one of the first to highlight those problems. Where were you? And now you dare say, and you compare yourself to Tun Mahathir? Don't you have any shame? Don't you have any humiliation? You've been proven wrong time after time. And then you refer in your speech that you have difficulty because of trials and crisis since 2014, uncertainties. Let me remind you, all of you take a photograph, right? Of this page is my analysis of the price of crude oil in US dollars. In 2011, when you were Prime Minister, oil price was 107.46. 212, oil price was 109.45. 213, 105.97. 214, it went down slightly to $96.29. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 years of bumper price. Petronas were reaping huge profits. Global price was up. Where did the money go? Under your administration, under your custody. Of course, when 2005, the money collapsed all the way down to 40, below 50 US dollars per barrel. You panicked instead. You didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do. Alright, you were lost. That's why you introduced all this nonsense, right? Plus the money laundering of what MDB, you introduced GST. In the 22 years of Tun Mahathir's administration, despite the crisis, 87 crisis, there was no need for GST. Why? Because we were prudent. While we may have made some mistakes, overall, we were right, we were correct. Our approach was correct. That 22 years was the peak of our renaissance, of our development. After Patla took over and you took over, we have been on a downslide to the cesspool of corruption, leakages, misapplication, and money laundering. And you dare to say that having suffered from lack of investment after we had imposed capital controls and pegged our ringgit from 1998 to 2005, we decided not to do that again. Where was the lack of investment? We were recovering. Putrajaya was completed. You move into Putrajaya as part of the administration. Cyberjaya was taking off. Our country was resilient. With huge surplus in 2004 when we handed over the country to Patla, and you will make the Deputy Prime Minister. Did you complain then? Did you complain there was no investment? When the herb was passed, the baton was passed to Patla and you did not listen. When you took as Prime Minister, did you complain? You did not listen because you wouldn't dare do it, right? But you were still on your backside. After the global financial tsunami hit us, you did nothing. If truth be told, and I swear on the Quran, I push and I push, and you were there, you know it, to stimulate the economy. If need be, have deficit financing. Because in itself, deficit financing is not an ailment, something to be ashamed of. Okay? Stiglitz has said, in terms of crisis, this will be one of the course of action you have to take. So for all of you out there watching this video, Google this article. Google, you read the whole article. This will expose the hypocrisy, the misrepresentation of Najib Razak. And this article as well, by Stiglitz. And I dare challenge Najib, his advisors in the Treasury, or his independent advisors, or some think tanks, to prove that I'm wrong. I dare you. Otherwise, shut up, zip up, and don't try to confuse the public. Each time you try, I will whack you. And don't think I'm afraid that I'll be charged, arrested and charged and put in prison again. This is not inciting the public. This is fighting for truth. Because you lied, you mislead, you misrepresent. And no way, as long as I'm breathing, I'm alive, I will expose you. Or anyone in administration. Okay? So therefore, Malaysians, let me tell all of you, the budget is a wayang kulit propaganda. I will show you after the budget, I will give another speech, I will dissect it, and I'll show to you, especially the Malays, who think Najib, by his so-called Bumiputra policy, his TN50, and blah, 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 will help you in the present situation. No. He's telling you fairy tales, and I'll prove to you. Be patient. Let him speak. Let me give you all the so-called goodies. He said a lot of goodies for all of you, Civil servants. They are not long-term solutions for the problems he has caused to our economy, to our country, and to our community. More so, UMNO being a champion, so-called champion of the Malays, UMNO and under his leadership has failed you miserably. I'll prove to you in due course. Having said that, all right, I would like to conclude once again. Please, Malaysians, when you read newspapers, any statements from any ministers, may I suggest to you, don't even waste time. Shove it down the toilet or shove it down the waste paper basket. Okay? Because it's not worth your time and money to buy one of this mainstream media that just repeat their nonsense. Okay? Because there will be always people who will do the research and expose they are nonsense. Just as I have done it today. And like I said to you, as long as I have breath in me, I can walk, I can talk. I will carry on fighting for truth. Because truth will always prevail. Justice will always prevail. And finally, may I say to all of you, as I always say, please surrender completely to the will of Allah. Have absolute faith that Allah will protect, defend, and guide us under all circumstances, in the face of all enemies, adversities, and challenges. Because in the present environment of hate, provocation, incitement by the establishment, you need to have an anchor to be grounded. And the only way you can have the anchor and grounded and be firm in your resolve and resilience is to have faith in Allah. Is that what is taught in the Quran? Have faith, surrender to the will of Allah. Fear not. Because His word, His truth cannot be attacked, cannot be challenged. No matter what they say, they can't distort the Quran. They can't distort the truth, no matter how hard they try. Because there will always a way to expose them. Just as I'm sure when he made a speech, Najib never realized Matthias Chang will do his research, dig up speeches by Stiglitz, headlines all the way back to 1998, 1997. Okay. I quoted them. I told you to photograph it. So I'm not hiding. I have my source. Alright? I have my book to show. I forecasted the crisis. I've shown the prices of the petrol. He had 5 years of bumper money. He squandered. There's nothing to show for it. And now he pretends that he's doing some fantastic magic show. Economic magic show. Let me say, oh bunkum. What we need to do now is, if there's an election, just vote out the end, vote out UMNO. With that, I thank you for your attention. Have a good day, and God bless you all. Thank you.